welcome back, everyone. This is Religion, Economics, and Politics, and I'm your host, Morris Jackson. And as promised, every week we will try to bring some amazing guests along that will add to your life, bring value, and hopefully get your life going in a better direction and help you kind of unearth some of those dreams, some of those things you've always wanted to do. And just maybe even answer some questions that's kind of been burning. And I have an amazing guest with me here tonight, Pastor Wendell Jones out of South Carolina. And actually, I'm just going to pause there. And Pastor, I'm just going to go ahead and just ask you to introduce yourself to the audience and just kind of give a little bit about your background, because I'm sure I would do you an injustice.
Oh, Morris. Oh, God, man, you put me on the spot because I hate doing that myself. even as a pastor, you go somewhere to speak and you have to sit there and they read the bio and you're like, but I'll try to be quick, guys. I am Wendell Jones. I'm so glad to be on tonight with my brother Morris. Listen, as he said, I'm a pastor. I have a great congregation. Our church is here in Greenville, South Carolina. It's named Changing Your Mind Ministries. No, that's unique. But if you ever look up the definition of repent, that's the definition of repent. So that's where we got that from. Wonderful group of people that I get the privilege of pastoring. I'm also an elected official. I'm a state representative for Greenville County District 25. And I'm also an entrepreneur. I've got two companies, one that deals with facility services and the other that's more of a consulting that allows me to, right now I have a really nice contract with Greenville Chamber of Commerce, Columbia Chamber of Commerce, and Charleston's Chamber of Commerce, where I get the privilege of teaching minority-owned businesses how to scale their businesses with the goal of not just growth, but the goal of employing people from their community with a livable wage. And so people, Mars, ask me how I'm able to do all the stuff that I do. It all ties together. I get to express my heart as a pastor. That same heart flows over into politics. That same heart flows over into my businesses, where I get to support people, and I get to show up as me wherever I go.
Well, I know you and I just recently met, and thank you for introducing us here. We're going to get a little bit more into a couple of those things that you just mentioned. And you and I, and just full disclosure, my wife is from Greenville, South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And so actually that's how we met, and not knowing that some of the same topics and passions and callings, we shared a couple of those. So there was some cross-pollination going on there.
Absolutely.
And so I leapt at the opportunity to ask you to come on, and I'm so gracious that you accepted. And what I do want to talk about is you just got elected to the State House of Representatives in South Carolina, the 25th district there. So what led you, or how did you decide I'm going to get involved in politics?
Well, Morris, I've been asked to for a long time. I'm 51 now. I've been asked since my 30s. I've been asked on both sides, the Republicans and Democrats. I am a Democrat. I have a passion for people. I have a passion for our people. And it just, our outgoing representative, she did a fantastic job, but she was getting up there in age. And so there was a vacancy there, and I was asked again to consider running. And I gave him the answer I give him every time, Morris. I said, no, thank you. I feel like I can do better here. But I also did what I normally do. I've got some people that I have a great deal of respect for. And one of those is my son. My son, who is my namesake, he works on Capitol Hill, and he's into politics, and he's always wanted me to get involved because he would say, Daddy, there's so much more you can do. But everybody I talk to, Morris, especially the people who normally I can count on to talk me out of it, everybody's message changed this year. It's like, no, we really think you ought to run this year. And of course, being a pastor, I spent some time with the Lord, and I felt that unction from him too. And I'm not like all these. You're probably a better Christian than me, Morris. Where you probably as soon as God tell you to do something, you're like, yes, Lord. And he didn't get a yes, Lord, from me. I'm like, no, I won't do that. But in all cases, he won out, and I'm grateful. Running was tough. I got to, you get in a world that people do a lot of malicious stuff, Mars. And I'm just not going to be that guy. I told my team at the onset of this, I said, I have to win as me or I'll lose as me. I'm not going to become somebody else just to win. I said, I'm not going to attack my opponents. And of course, people were very happy to give me stuff on people. And I was like, that's just not who I am. I said, here's the reason. I said, I find it lacking of integrity for me to tear down my brothers and my sister and then turn around having won and ask them, can I represent them?
Wow. Because
they would be residents of my district. And I didn't want to sell my integrity like that. And so fortunately, God blessed us to win. And I have ideas, stuff that flows out of what I do from a consulting with small businesses and how I think we can improve the community, what I see going on politically. And the reality of it is that policy touches all of our lives, whether you vote or not. Policy is going to touch your life. And so I had enough. I think I ran my mouth enough about stuff that I didn't like to where God said, we'll do something about it. And here I am, sir. Amen. Here I am.
And that is, I think, so noble, and I think discipline of you. And because there's so many people I can tell you who went to office and they had good intentions. And I believe they genuinely had good intentions before they went to office. And after a while, being there, of course, the temptations are great. And over time, you started to see them evolve, and it was a little bit disappointing.
I'll be honest, Morris, that's been my prayer. I right now sitting here, I'm telling you, that's not who I am. But at the same time, I'm sensible enough to constantly plead with God, like, please don't let me get caught up in that stuff, So I don't want to rely on my personal willpower. I'm saying, God, please guard me from all of that, because, like you said, many people go into office with great intentions, and they get caught up in the mechanism that's been around for years, and it sucks them into this way of thinking. And I don't want to be that guy, Mara. So, and I'm not going to rely on my strength to keep me out of it. So I'm constantly praying to God to make sure that He holds me to.
I'll tell you what, process. Sure. The Jackson household will definitely keep you lifted in our prayers, because we need people like you in office and in politics. And which kind of leads me into my next question. What role do you believe politics plays in government or in religion?
What role?
Excuse me, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. But what role does politics or government play in religion?
Oh, I got you. Okay. Well, my perspective is this. I actually was having a conversation with somebody this morning. One of my fellow politicians down there called me, actually on the other side of the aisle, which I'm glad they're reaching out to me. And talking about some things that he would like to do in terms of faith and politics. And my answer might have thrown him off just a little bit for a minute. And I said, I don't believe in legislating my faith. I don't believe in legislating my faith. I said, I believe in evangelizing my faith. I said, that's the difference. I said, God called me as a believer to the Great Commission to go ye therefore. I said, my fear is that if we try to legislate our faith, then we're simply going to have people performing as Christians without the benefit of a relationship with Christ. And if that's the case, we've missed the point. I don't want people acting like a Christian. I think it's incumbent upon me to follow the script that God has given us, and that's to talk to our brothers and sisters and compel them to come and live the kind of life and lead them through Romans 10 and 9 and introduce them to a relationship with Christ. And now you don't have to perform. You got the indwelling of the Holy Spirit who begins to change your heart, your mindset, and all of that. And you really become a citizen of the kingdom. That's one phase of it. But I also know that my perspectives have been shaped by the word of God. I know from a legal sense, and I agree with it, there should be a separation between church and state. I do believe in that, Mars, because again, if we started letting the government, even here's my fear. If you allow the government to advocate more so for your faith, what happens when the leadership changes and it's somebody of another faith? Correct. Once we set a precedent, you can advocate for whoever's leading gets to make the rules. And so I believe there should be, from a legal standpoint, a separation that way. But the part that you cannot separate is that the principles of the word of God have shaped my perspectives. And I really do believe that one of the things that we say at my church is that we believe that the word of God has the answers to all of life's questions. And I believe God touches on every aspect of life in those 66 books. And so that's in me. I don't have to beat you across the head with the 66 books in order for me to place the perspectives of God in my legislation. And so I know it's going to shape it already shapes how I see things. It shapes how I see things in terms of how we govern ourselves with each other. It shapes how I see things with how we deal with the foreigners. It shapes how I look at economics. All of that is in the Bible, every bit of it. And yes, I believe God's got the best answers. And so that's going to come across in how I legislate. It is. It absolutely is.
And that's interesting. And you're correct. Everything is in the Bible, because I think God gave us a good example of how we would operate under the law or legislation versus actually dealing with the heart. So under the law, there was strict punishment. I mean, people were put to death.
Absolutely.
So they had all these things, but it still did not stop people from sinning. But what changed people's ways and their behaviors was when, Jesus came and we started dealing with relationship, and it became, Jesus recognized and pointed out that this is where matters of the heart. Mm-hmm. So we can have the death penalty. We can have all these different laws. And the last time I checked, or the last time I turned on the news, people were still being killed.
Absolutely.
People were still being shot. People were still robbing. People were still doing all these different things out here. We have laws. So laws, they may curb behavior, maybe to those who would be obedient to the law, but it's not going to stop people from doing the things that they're going to do. Those are matters of the heart. Absolutely. So you're right. The Bible talks about all of those things, and there's nothing new under the sun.
Yep. We need laws, as you said, to try to curb behavior. We need laws to be explicit about punishment and to act as deterrents. Mm-hmm. But as you say, when man is determined to do bad, he'll find a way to do bad. And so, but we need those in place to act as a shield, act as a defense. But as you just said, as a believer, we have to realize that men won't change until they're changed from inside out. And so absolutely. I still have my work to do as a pastor, but I also now will have my work to do as a legislator. And so the legislation provides, in an ideal situation, the legislation provides protection until the heart changes. And I think that's really what was somewhat of a desire. That I think that's the intent in the word. I mean, there are the commandments, there's the law there, but as God stated, it's going to be impossible for you to live up to it until you let me change your heart. And so at least it makes people slow down, and it makes people somewhat thoughtful. But when people are determined to do evil, they're going to do evil. And the way that we get rid of the evil is a relationship with Christ.
Absolutely. So, when I actually started this podcast, Religion, Economics, and Politics, I mean, I got all sorts of pushback. Religion and politics, that's like oil and water. That doesn't mix. I told them, I said, well, I disagree with you. One impacts the other. And I think if you have a Christian or believer in that legislative seat, it does make a difference. And like you said, not that we would try to legislate our faith or push it on to someone else, but I think it helps us to make more thoughtful legislation.
Absolutely.
More compassionate legislation.
Well, we hope so.
Yeah,
we hope so.
We hope so.
We're seeing a lot of people weaponize our faith too. And
yes.
So that is disheartening because if we weaponize our faith in the political arena, it makes it incredibly difficult to evangelize our faith. It makes it incredibly difficult.
And I think that's those people that the Bible talked about. They're give their appearance being a lamb, but they're actually ravenous wolves.
Mm-hmm.
They're just out for self. They're pushing the agenda of their special interest groups, and they probably could care less about the people who put them in office. Yeah. And that's really sad. And I think we do have some modern day Pharisees and Sadducees out there. Yeah. So like I said, they got on the holy garments and they have the appearance, but their hearts, are black as coal.
Far removed from it. But I will say, not to just give a negative commentary. I have met some genuinely good people on both sides of the aisle that have great intent. And even with our great intent, we're all flawed, myself included. And sometimes we can miss the heart and intent of God. But I still think there are some people that are really trying to figure this thing out, how to represent the heart of God and still help put legislation in place that allows for the ideal of our Constitution to be fulfilled. I really do think there's some people on both sides that are trying.
And I agree with you on that. And like I said, and I don't want that to appear to be a blanket statement on everyone. Right. There are those that are there to serve their own purpose. But I think there are those that are there, they're really passionate and genuine in their intentions about how they go about legislating, and they really do care about the people in their districts.
Absolutely.
And even folks that I've had some disagreements with, it's been folks that I work with. But when we actually sat down and actually talked about the core issues, what is it that, is really important to you? What's really important to me? We find that we share a lot of commonalities. We're passionate about the same things. We may express it a different way, or we may go about it or think there's a different solution to make those things happen.
Right.
But if we focus, I think, on, what are the common ground? What's the common ground? What do we share as far as our beliefs are concerned? And we could figure out a way to get there together. It's when we, I think, shut each other out and it's either my way or no way. That's when I think we get ourselves into trouble.
I agree. Absolutely. I agree. We all need to remain teachable.
Yeah. So I got hope. And, so that's another reason why I started this podcast is to educate people, to get people to come together to see the common ground, see the common issues that we all share. I mean, look, we all want, at least we should want. I heard someone say today, actually it was TD Jakes. He says, I'm driving a Bentley, but I can't breathe. He's talking about the environment, or I can't drink the water. Money can't be everything.
Right.
And there's only so much. And I was, someone called me one time and they asked me, they were doing a poll and they asked me, hey, what's the most important to you and why are you voting Democrat? And I said, hey, civil rights. And so she asked me why. I said, well, ma'am, I said, I can vote for an economic policy, and that's great. I can prosper economically. Hey, I can lower my taxes. But I do remember and I may be going to the extreme here, but I do remember in Nazi Germany, Jewish people, there were some rich Jewish people too,
Hmm.
but their civil rights were taken away. They came in and took those bank accounts, took the property, rounded people up, and marched them, to in the internment camps. Uh,
Absolutely.
so that's very, very important to me. So I think there needs to be a balance. So the civil rights, I think, is for that. I mean, that's very important. And then after we get the civil rights and make sure that is in place and that's protected, then we need to look at the education, the economics, the equity. Uh, very important. But I think we can't have one without the other. But then I think
I agree.
there's a good balance.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. The balance that I kind of refer to it as, Morris, I refer to it as logic and compassion.
Mm.
Sometimes we swing the pendulum too much to logic that we forget to be compassionate. But sometimes we can swing too far in the compassion side and we can't afford to pay for the compassion. And so we got to have thoughtful enough leadership that we can do both. And I really do believe we can do both.
I do too. I really miss the days when Democrats and Republicans could work together, and hopefully we get back to that time. I don't know. You've probably been watching some of the things going on in Washington today,
Yeah.
And so this hasn't happened in 100 years. Voting for the Speaker of the House. So so interesting times, but. I just remember, I mean, I grew up in my formidable years, I guess late 80s, early 90s. So I do remember Republicans and Democrats working together, not to say that they didn't have disagreements or things that they, couldn't come to terms on, but they usually were able to come up with a deal, something reasonable that everyone, hey, I got something, you got something. We didn't get everything we wanted, but we both got something we wanted and come up with a deal. Now, could we still do better? I mean, yeah, we definitely can. But I would like to see us get back to the days because I think where we are now in the political climate is just it's so contentious, and we're shouting at each other. We're not listening to one another.
Right.
And like I said, at the end of the day, we all want our kids to be in good schools. We want low crime in our communities, low or no crime. We want jobs.
Yeah.
We want economic opportunity. We want to be able to thrive. We want all these different things.
Exactly. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So anyway, I can go on and on that. So one thing that's near and dear to my heart, and I'm sure for yours as well. So what can the Black and Brown communities do to spark economic growth and development in our communities? And the second part to that is, what role do you think government plays in that?
Oh, great questions. If I were to sum, when you're in the political arena, there's so much that you can focus on that it can be overwhelming, and you end up having paralysis by analysis. And so you have to find something that you think can move the needle the most. And the thing that I've decided to focus on is what is known as economic mobility. Economic mobility deals with the ability of an individual and his or her family to be able to steadily move in their earning ability, and not be subject to almost like a caste system. Because the way statistics speak now, they say that if you were born in the bottom 1/5 economically, you're probably going to die there. It's hard to move upwards. And if you look around, the cost of living is going up steadily. So if you're not moving up in your earning power, you are in a very vulnerable position. And so that's what I'm focused on. And a major component of having mobility economically is the benefits that come out of social networks. The majority has social networks where they are meeting quite on a regular basis, and they're looking out for each other and making each other aware of information and opportunities. What the Black and Brown community has to begin to do is adopt that paradigm as well, and through which we can begin to support each other economically. Yes, buy from each other, but also support each other with the sharing of information. information is the driver of it all. Where the opportunities are to act as a source of introduction. If you're fortunate enough to land a contract and you got a friend who's an entrepreneur, but they don't do the same thing you do, but they could get in the business, walk them through the door and help them facilitate the introduction. We have to have an intentional effort to support each other economically. We really have to get back to the community concept or the village concept where we're looking out for one another. And if we can do that, I know we can do that, but if we will do that, we'll be able to not only be able to create more stable communities, we'll even be able to turn down the gentrification efforts, all of that good stuff, if we were to come together and work together and support each other. But here's the ultimate thing, because normally when you start talking like that, people will try to hijack the conversation and act like you're being divisive. When what I'm talking about is commonplace with other groups, they just don't have to publicize it, talk about it as much because it is commonplace. But what happens is that if we improve the economic stability of the Black and Brown community, it benefits the entire society.
Absolutely.
It benefits the entire society. And so, listen, in this world that we are now open to, we're open to this global economy. And so what's happening is the people that are becoming incredibly competitive with the United States, they don't have as much division in their society as we presently have. And so they're trying to elevate their entire workforce, their entire society. And a skilled workforce is a competitive workforce. A skilled workforce is a creative, is an entrepreneurial, is an innovative workforce. And where the skills and where the innovation is, that's where the capital flows. And so it begins to build upon itself. Now, if we're over here too busy trying to have caste system and divisions amongst our peoples, that makes us very vulnerable to a solidified group across the Atlantic Ocean. And so in all of these economies deal with each other now. We see that now. And so we've got to make a concerted effort for unity, which is a principle of the Bible. You know, a house divided cannot stand. But one sets 1,000, and two can set 10,000. God is trying to show us the power behind a unification, and so we ought to be challenged to tear down barriers and not feel threatened by one another. But if we can equip the whole team, the team wins. The analogy I used when talking with some of my peers the other day, I said, I asked them, I said, you ever had the benefit of coaching your kids' little league team or football team? And it's like, yeah. I said, no, I was a football coach for a little while, and I said it never failed. Every year I get some little kids that have just incredible natural ability, but they don't know the game. But I got these other kids that have been playing before, they know the game. And so they get frustrated because it seems like I'm spending more time with the kids who don't know the game. And I had to explain to them, I said, once I teach them the game, it's going to improve our abilities to win as a team. Right now, our team is vulnerable because they don't know the game. I said, now, when I get them up to speed, our team, our collective team is going to be unstoppable. And that never failed to be true. It was absolutely true. That same analogy works for my county, works for my state, works for my country, that even we got all these wonderful people that have incredible gifts of resilience and innovation and all that stuff, but they don't know the game. They don't know the economic game. I said, if we quit hiding information and bring the whole team up, then the team wins. Right now, the team is vulnerable. Right now, the state's vulnerable. Right now, the county's vulnerable. Right now, the nation is vulnerable economically because we have too many players who could be helping us win, but we're withholding information from them. So we bring everybody up to par, then we will win collectively.
I love that analogy. I got two two friends of mine. One's Asian, the other one's Jewish, and we were having this conversation probably about 3 weeks ago. And he says, Morris, he says, and this is the Jewish friend of mine. He says, hey, I don't understand why the Black community doesn't work together. You guys are talented. You guys can do some amazing things. You have great ideas. He says, in the Jewish community, he says, if I need supplies, if I have a bakery, if I need supplies for that bakery, I go to my Jewish brother and go buy the supplies. Whether it's cake boxes, whether it's batter, whatever it is, whether it's sugar, whether it's flour, he goes to a Jewish business and buys those supplies to make his goods. So the money never leaves the community. Well, I won't say never leaves the community, but it stays in that community for an extended period of time.
Yes.
So my Asian brother, same thing. As a matter of fact, there's a community in Houston called Sugarland. Sugarland is 60% Asian and it's thriving. I mean, and Sugarland's always been like that, but it was predominantly white at one point in time, but now it's 60% Asian. And they redid the districts. I mean, they redid everything. I mean, so they have a political representative there, but they pool their resources. So economically, politically, they put their money together. I've never seen them protest. I'm not saying that protesting isn't good or doesn't have its merit, but I've never seen them march. I've never seen them protest.
You don't have to when you have economic leverage.
Yes. And he says, man, he says, you guys have got to do this. He says, if you guys would actually put your money and your resources together, quit fighting each other, man, you guys would be a force to be reckoned with. Now, I know some people would hear that and say, okay, like you said, it's divisive, or hey, that's we're being racist in some shape, form, or fashion. Right. But I disagree. I just believe that if we're always waiting for someone else to help us, it's probably not going to happen too soon. I think there's a lot that we can do. And don't get me wrong, I always think that at some point in time, hey, if we can get help from someone else along the way, but at the same time, we need to be doing for self. And there's so much that we could be doing right now that we're not doing. I think we're actually leaving money on the table by not putting our resources together.
Morris, most people think that our economy, I don't know if the camera will let me illustrate this or not, but most people think our economy, if you can't really see it, it's like what I got here is a picture of one little circle. They think that our economy is made like that. But in reality, it's like several little circles inside the big circles. And sometimes those circles overlap each other. But for the most part, you can see the majority of those circles, they don't overlap each other. The way our economy is set up is that we got several small pockets of economies. And many times those economies are shaped by ethnicities. People don't want to say that out loud, but that's the reality, because you just described it. You said the Jewish community, it's cultural for them to support each other. The Asian community, it's cultural for them to support each other. The Arab community is cultural for them to support each other. So they create their own economy. And often and many times that those economies become very visible with areas of town. Like you said, Sugarland, a little Havana in Miami, a Chinatown or what have you. Because there are physical locations to identify where you come to get your goods and services. But not only does it identify where you come to get your goods and services, politics are also tied to geography. So whatever portion of the city or county you take over, now you own it also a portion of land that's tied to some legislator, because that's how their territories are defined as well. And so they're building these economies, they're supporting each other, which gives them economic leverage. I don't have to protest because we got the numbers. We're deciding who we put in office. that politician is beholden to us because we are supporting that politician financially, also with our votes, and we're pushing for what legislation we want to see done. That's how this thing works. Unfortunately, our community oftentimes is scattered, and we're supporting all these other smaller pockets of economies. If we were to follow the existing pattern, if we were to do it, we're doing what so many others are already doing. But as I said earlier, it's not talked about as much out loud because it's just already cultural. You know, oftentimes ours get broken up because we're discussing it openly all the time about what we're trying to do. And I'm not trying to, and plus I'm not pushing something that's covert or anything like that. But what has to happen for us, Morris, is that it has to become cultural for us too. And so as we improve financially, we really do help that big picture, because if you could see this, all of this is inside of that big circle. So the big circle improves too by default because the smaller circles are getting better. And so everybody's expanding, everybody's growing, everybody's buying power is better. Everybody's more engaged politically, so better decisions are being made, better politicians are being put in place where people are truly representing the people. You are called a representative for a reason. It's not to represent your own agenda, but you should run for office because you believe in what the collective believes and you want to see them benefit from it. And so when we get there, I'm not going to keep saying if, I'm hopeful, Mars, that we realize that this has to be a cultural movement for us, of learning how to unlearn some stuff and now begin to support each other while we're still fumbling our way to it, and not ask us to be perfect out of the gate. You know, you got to be able to go to that new restaurant on the corner and they don't have, the plates are a mismatch. And we'll complain like, well, the service was bad. I said, well, listen, they got to make money to improve the service. They really do. They got to make enough money to be able to have a training program. So some of their workers going to have to learn on the fly. And we got to understand that and be compassionate and patient about that, because there's a bigger picture at stake. There's an economy that we're trying to build so that we can be one of the things that shouldn't be fault from any size is that as our economy grows, we become greater contributors to the bigger picture. Mm-hmm. We become a more, listen to this, we become a more lucrative tax base.
Yes.
So we can contribute more to the tax base from a city, county, state, federal level. So all that stuff should be smiled upon and supported. Now, where does government come into place? Policy can drive that. Policy that supports the work of small businesses and don't hinder that. Policies that continue to provide funding for CDFIs, community development financial institutions, those that hybrid institution that's between that the Treasury Department created, that's not quite a bank, but have bank-like qualities designed to really support the minority community and put loans out there. Education, make sure our education is affordable. Our trade schools, not only teach them how to become HVAC technicians, but also teach them how to run a business around that trade, around that skill set. If we do that, and it just makes sense to do that. We could it's almost like pumping steroids into the economy if we give our folks the tools to be more productive. I feel like I'm rambling a little bit, sorry. But
no, you're spot on. And you said something when you talked about the customer service and bearing with them as they learn and as they grow. The customer service will come. I was in the military, and we were trained in the military that we didn't have time for the niceties and all the different things like that. So they weren't going to ask you nicely because the mission was at hand. So I think we need to think of this as, hey, we're on a mission. Mm-hmm. So some of the like I said, the niceties or the luxuries or some of the things that we come to expect that in different circles, we're going to have to kind of put that aside right now and focus on the mission. I went to a really nice restaurant in Dallas, and I was a little bit embarrassed when I found out that it was actually owned by a black owner. And the reason why I said I was embarrassed because the customer service was just over the top. It was great. And just being real with you, a lot of times when we go to some of our restaurants, the customer service is not necessarily up to par.
Right.
And when we compare it to different circles, and that's probably going to be the biggest complaint because it's usually not the food. The food is usually really good because
Right.
that's when we do that well.
Yeah.
But it's the customer service is usually where we lack. And so once I found out that, like I said, the African American, he was the owner, former Navy man, and I'm going to go ahead and plug him. The restaurant is called Buttons in Dallas. So if you get an opportunity to go to Buttons, go and check it out. You won't be disappointed. Live jazz band, gourmet soul food. It's amazing. It's amazing food. But anyway, the service was just great. And I was talking to someone, and I said, "Man, this is a great restaurant. Hey, definitely got to come back here, bring some of my friends." And he says, "Yeah, the owner's right over there. He's actually here tonight." And the guy, bald head, had a long beard, and he's the owner. And he comes in. He started out as a chef in the Navy, and so he likes to come in every now and again and cook or kind of see what's going on in the kitchen and meet and greet people. And when I saw him, I said, "He's black?" They said, "Yeah, you didn't know that?" I said, "No." I said, "Man, the customer service is really good."
Yeah.
So I was kind of embarrassed by that, but we need to get to the point to where that is the expectation. And
Right.
like you said, we will get there. But this restaurant, it didn't always start that way. And I did get an opportunity to talk to the gentleman. So they didn't start out that way.
Yeah.
They had
And see,
humble beginnings. And it was just an idea.
Well, and that's the, and I love it. And two, he probably had the benefit of pulling on his military training, because businesses are all about systems.
Yes.
And oftentimes, what our community will have is that what I call, even when I'm teaching, is that I recognize that we have really great technicians. And what I mean by that, if she's a technician, means that she's an incredible cook. But it doesn't mean you know how to build systems around cooking so that you can have a sustainable business that gives the same experience every time, because we haven't been exposed to that. And so that's why, of course, I've got compassion when I'm there, because sometimes we're asking people to do something they've never even been exposed to. They just know how to cook a mean meal, but how to get it from the suppliers and how to put the time sheets together and all this other kind of stuff, and how to even have enough money to take a week training your staff. That's a real issue. A lot of times we got you fill the application today. I need somebody to wait tables today, and so we're gonna let you kind of fumble your way through it. So now you got a waitress that's frustrated because she's got responsibilities with no training. And so when we have that type of empathy, we can understand that we are facing an uphill battle. But the more of us that begin to be teachers and trainers and encouragers, man, we can turn this thing around. And for those who would say that this is divisive, talking about how the Black community needs to be to do this, honestly, man, I would push back and say, man, this is patriotic. And they might go, what? No, it's patriotic, because the better we are, the better our country is. And so the fact that our folks are stepping to the plate to be business owners and to step into these positions, we are improving the future of this country. So it is a patriotic endeavor. It is not a divisive one.
Absolutely. And we've proven that we can do it.
Absolutely.
We have some very, very good examples in Black Wall Street, and there are some other places actually in Oklahoma towns that we hadn't even heard of, but I only found out about it because I lived there for a while. And these were small Black towns They were totally independent, very wealthy owners of hotels,
Yeah.
restaurants,
Yep.
some of the finest dining that you ever want, to enjoy. So it's there, and these people had planes. I didn't know that, but these people had their
Yeah.
own planes. So the examples are there. I mean, all across the U.S. I mean, we just only heard about a few that have been made famous, but the
Right.
examples are there.
And segregation forced us to have these enclosed economies.
Mm-hmm.
And wealth is generated by circulation, not by stacking.
Right.
And that's something you have to learn, that dollar should travel throughout the store, from the farmer to the grocer to the purchaser to the restaurant, back around. And that same $1 builds wealth and allows people to purchase assets that allow them to do better job the next time. That's what happens. And so in whether it be in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Greenwood, Black Wall Street, or Open Durham and Raleigh and all those other communities, those monies circulated, which allowed us to get better, which allowed us to be able to build nicer things and grow collectively, because it didn't leave. And that is an economic concept. When you hear people talk about the trade deficit, that's all they're talking about from a national standpoint, meaning too many of our dollars are leaving America to go into the coffers of China and India and the other countries. And so there is a deficit. So we're sending more out than we're bringing in, because we realize as a nation that we need that money staying in, and we need y'all pumping money into our country, and that's what we became wealthy, such a wealthy country initially, because we went through the industrial age before most people, and so they had to buy most of their stuff from us. So their monies were coming over in, which build up our wealth. Now with these other countries becoming industrialized, we're starting to buy more goods abroad, and so they're always talking about this deficit, because it does weaken the economy. That's on the grand scale. But that also happens within your community. That also happens within your neighborhood. There is a trade deficit in the Black community. More of our monies go out without bringing monies in.
Right. So as some of my friends would say, there's levels to this, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Levels to this.
Absolutely. And you not circulate monies to spite somebody else. You circulate monies to build up your infrastructure, build up your people, build up your resources, which still allows you to contribute more to the tax base, more to other things, because there's always going to be some stuff that you don't have in the community, at least temporarily, that you'll be able to support somebody outside of your economic bubble. So it really strengthens the whole picture. But if we continue to have things in place, policies in place, practices in place that allows for a group of people to be marginalized, what you're ultimately doing is making the big picture weakened, especially if you're going up against somebody else who doesn't have those practices.
So some of the programs that you run or oversee now from a consulting standpoint, kind of talk about those for a moment, and how that's helping to, I guess, build towards what we're talking about right now.
Great question, man. The reason I did this, because I was, man, we don't have enough time tonight for me to tell you all this stuff. but I'll say this, I was prayerfully trying to create some curriculum with the intent of helping minority businesses grow, because again, goes back to this economic thing that we're talking about. What normally happens is that community business grows and it employs people from that community. And I was trying to figure it out, and I ran across I was sought out by this group out of Boston through our local chamber called Enterprise. And they had the same agenda that I did. They were trying to figure out how to create uplift in the minority community. That was the goal. That was the main thing. And through their research, they discovered that uplift is best created by empowering small businesses. Wow. And I was like, ding, 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 ding. I don't have to create this. Somebody else already done it. And I went and learned that stuff. And so I've been teaching it because the ultimate goal is, yes, to help my students grow their businesses, and they are growing. I got my numbers back from my Columbia group the other week, and they've grown their revenue over 30%. Over 30%. But here's the thing that's amazing. Here's the thing that I hold near and dear to my heart, that they are also charged to hire people. That's the goal. Hire FTEs, full-time exempt employees, but don't just hire them with the goal of hiring them at a livable wage. And so you're not under the table. It's all legit. It's all above board. But you're not only impacting the wealth of your family, Mr. Business Owner, but you're changing the trajectory of people in your community, which is what we just described, that the Jewish community and the Asian community and the Hispanic community does a great job of it as well. And so now you're changing the dynamics of your community. And at the core, Mars, a great portion of our issues are economically driven. And so if we can, and like I said, we're creative, we got great products, we got great talent, and if we can build a business around that and hire Junior and hire Fred and hire Sally, and Tom just got out of jail. Don't nobody want to hire him, but you will. I will. I know you got some stuff on your credit, but we grew up together. And so I'm going to give you, and you in my neighborhood, I'm going to give you a chance. And I'm not going to make you make $8, $9 an hour. I know to live in this city, we got to make $21 an hour. So I got you. Come on board, and I'm going to teach you some stuff. That's what has to happen. And the reason I can pay him $21 an hour in my restaurant is because the people in my community are committed to coming to my restaurant. They're not driving past me to go out to some other establishment. They're making sure our money stays here. And if we can do that, and that's the impetus behind what I'm even doing. And I applaud the chambers for being receptive to that, because people are starting to see, Mars, they really are. They're starting to see that we can't continue to disenfranchise a group of people and still hope to build an attractive city. Because what's going to happen is you're going to create this chasm between groups of people, which creates societal problems. It's going to create societal problems. Quit building this chasm. Let's try to bring everybody into the prosperity. Everybody becomes a contributor, and it makes us even more attractive to outside investors, whether it be people trying to relocate or whether it be companies deciding to come into our area. Because they see a skilled workforce, they see a governmental entity that's very receptive, very pro-business, because you see it on the small business level. Everybody benefits. And so that's been my way of thinking for several years. And now you asked me the question earlier, like what pulled me into politics. Well, that's one of the things that did, because I felt like, okay, the timing's now. Everybody's kind of receptive to this now. Let me get in and see if I can help on the policy level now to make it even more attractive, more beneficial for our small business owners, particularly our minority business owners.
Well, I think everything you said makes good common sense. I think it makes good economic sense. It makes good political sense. And from a religious standpoint, I mean, it makes sense.
It does.
We ought to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. Just as we, would love ourselves. We should celebrate in others' success. We should, bless others, or basically, like you said, just love on them and celebrate and cheer them on. When their situation improves, or when things are looking up for them.
Absolutely. The survival of the church in Acts followed this pattern you and I've been talking about, where you create an enclosed economy. The Bible says they brought all of their stuff together and they begin to support one another because it is a means of survival. You cannot oppose a system that you're dependent upon. So they had to come together and began to share their goods and grow, which allowed the church to survive, because the church was under attack big time. But this is how they were able to survive and thrive. Not just, the preaching and the teaching is necessary, but people got to eat. People still got to live. People got to be housed. People got to be clothed. Kids and people got to be educated. So there's always going to be an economic component to it. And if we try to, sometimes the people like you kind of alluded to earlier, religion and politics, well, they don't mix. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. The Bible is about governance. Governance literally means how we interact with each other. That's what it literally means. Economics at its core means the management of a singular household. And that's what it means. And people say, I'm all about economics. I challenge my peers. I say, if you're about economics, then economics means that you are all about making sure that every single household can participate in this thing. That's truly living up to the meaning of economics. God wanted everybody to be taken care of. You look in the Old Testament, every household was pretty much conducted like a business. The wealth of Abraham came about. The wealth of, because they knew how to keep. They had their insulated economies mainly based off of families, And so this isn't new stuff. This stuff is all throughout Scripture, man. It is, and it's for the betterment of the whole. And God was absolutely opposed to oppression. And God said, if you lend to the poor, you lend to me. And so there's the common thread throughout those 66 books of uplift. And that's what we're charged to do in every arena, whether it be a church on Sunday, whether it be me down at the General Assembly at the Capitol. How do we remove barriers so that people can have access to being their full selves? And when they're allowed to do that and given the tools to do that, the whole thing benefits.
Pastor Jones, I need to be at your church on Sundays, man. I'm telling you, I know I would be blessed. My family would be blessed, like I said, if we were able to hear you preach on Sundays and just get a few nuggets. And I know we could go on, and man, I would love to have you back. And from time
just
to
say
time,
the word, my friend. Just say the word. I'm back. Okay. Yeah, you just let me know. I would love to be.
I believe the Lord has placed you on this earth for such a time as this, and the message that you have, I think a lot of people need to hear it. I think they're gonna hear it, and if I have anything to do about it, I'm gonna make sure it gets out there. God has called me to do some things, and I think some of those things kind of, cross paths. One of the things that God's put on my heart was actually, this is just the beginning of it, but actually to open up a school to start teaching our children from a young age about entrepreneurship and educating them on our history, educating them on economics. And some of us are going to be lawyers, doctors, go into the workplace. But I do believe that a good portion of us should also go into business for ourselves. And I think
I agree.
We need to encourage that. And because I do believe that ownership is one of the keys to elevating our community.
Let's go spiritual real quick. I'm gonna tell you how I really believe that is so accurate, because the word Lord means owner.
Okay.
And he calls himself.
I'm writing. I'm taking notes.
And Jesus calls himself. He's going to return back with King of Kings, Lord of Lords on his thigh, meaning that this is the expectation of what he's coming back to see. And so if he's the Lord of Lords, he's the owner of owners. there's an expectation of us to through righteousness, which means to become who you ought to be. That's what righteousness literally means. I know we normally say it means to be in right standing with God, but in order to be in right standing with God, you have to be who you're supposed to be. And who you're supposed to be is a solution provider, a problem solver. That's where your anointing kicks in. That's the purpose of your gifts, to be a blessing to others who have problems, and you show up with the solutions of them. And because of that, you kind of follow the pattern of Solomon, where you don't have to fight people no more. You're so good at what you do that they come bring their gifts and lay them at your feet for you to help them solve their problems. And you ultimately begin to own your sphere, own your domain, have dominion over the area in which you're gifted at, because you poured yourself into getting understanding, and all the stuff you've been getting understanding about what it is that God has called me to do. And now that I'm really good at something and I can make somebody's life more simple, I can remove the chaos out of your life in this area, then those men were given to my bosom, pressed down, shaken together. And so that's what we're supposed to be doing. And so you give to me, you'll pay me, but you don't feel cheated. You don't feel cheated, because I have just helped a part of your life get better. And it's a part of your life you don't have to perfect, because you're too busy perfecting the other part. I'm gonna take care of this piece for you, so that's no longer a distraction, and you'll compensate me for that. And I called on you for that piece, because I don't need to be trying to become great at that over there, because you got it. So I'll pay you for that. And now everybody's experiencing uplift.
And there's room for us all at the table.
Absolutely.
I love it.
And be free, and free indeed.
Woo, man, I got one more question. I promise, and we can stop after this, because I could go on forever. So you just been elected.
Mm-hmm.
Session's getting ready to start next week, right?
Next week.
So what should your constituents expect from you during your first term in the House?
The first term, I've as anxious as I am to get some things done in this first year, I need to be a student. I need to humble myself and be a student. I need to humble myself and build relationships. I got a long list of legislation that I want to try to get done. And I'm going to start testing the waters a little bit with that as well. But what they can expect of me to be very well informed about the process, to begin to build relationships, because we're completely outnumbered, Republicans and Democrats. And so you're not going to get anything done without having some partnerships across the aisle. They can expect that. They can expect me to do what I do, that I love to do. As a pastor, I'm a teacher. As a consultant, I'm a teacher. As a politician, I'm going to be a teacher. I want to bring information back and arm you with information, so that we can begin to move in a more intelligent way, and really begin to take full advantage of these opportunities, no longer be in the dark about it. And I'm hoping that because we're sharing this information, we'll form a more cohesive group and see the benefits of working together. Like I just said before, it's not divisive whatsoever, but bringing us together so we can actually be greater contributors to the bigger picture. And so that is my aim, to make this district attractive for investment dollars, attractive for people who want to move and be a part of it, to where our voices can be heard. And we can begin to demand more resources, because we manage the resources that we got very well. That's the aim for all of this. Not handouts, but we're good at what we do. And so, if you pour into us, it's going to come back. It's like the talents. You leave us with 5, you come back, we're going to give you 10. And so that's the aim. That's the aim of this leader. The details and intricacies of how all that's going to get done, that's still coming into view. But when I step away from it, that's what I want to be able to leave behind as my contributions to this district.
Well, I think it's a testament to you that if Republicans were trying to get you to run for office before you even decided to do so, as well as Democrats, then I think that speaks to your personality. I think your character. I have all the confidence in the world that you'll be able to, get those agreements and work with people from different
Thank you.
sides of
Thank you.
the issues. And we're definitely going to keep you lifted in prayer. Like I said again, we need people like you in office that are, God-fearing, passionate about the constituents in the district and have their best interests at heart. I really appreciate you coming on today and doing this. I know it's been a long day for you and still taking time out for me to do this little
My pleasure, brother.
podcast. Hey, I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, brother. I appreciate you considering me to even just be a part of it. So thank you, Mark.
Oh. So social media, where can we follow you or even follow some of your sermons or
Absolutely.
how can we get in contact with you, like say even on the political side?
On Facebook, I can be found under Pastor Wendell Jones. Also, you can find me under Elect Wendell Jones from my political page. You can find my consulting company's Wendell Jones Leadership Institute. It's on Facebook as well. Our ministry is wearecym.org. And you can find us on all social media platforms, including YouTube on We Are CYM. And that way you can take a look at some of the sermons. I would love for the folks to go not just hear me, but get a glimpse of the wonderful people that I get the privilege of pastoring.
Absolutely. And don't be surprised that if you see me pop up in service.
Oh yeah, when y'all come to Greenville to visit family, come on through.
Professor Jones, thank you so much for taking time, like I said, to sit down with Religion, Economics, and Politics this evening. And as always, folks, stay encouraged.